Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got an updated top 10 list of my favorite blade steels of all time. Now, I'm not going to call it the top 10 best because it's impossible for me to tell you what the best are. Right? In my opinion, there is no best blade steel. It just depends on, where you're using it, what the geometry of the blade is, what type of knife it is, right? The heat treat, right? There's a whole bunch of different elements. If you're new to the knife world, there are infinite variables. No one person, no matter how professional they claim to be, how much knowledge they claim to have amassed, no one person can tell you that there's an optimal blade steel and what it is, right? They can give you suggestions based on how you're going to use it, right? Yada, yada, yada. But that's why. I'm not going to call it the top 10 best. I'm just going to tell you what my favorites are. I'm going to tell you why I think that. Keep in mind, I'm not a metallurgist. I'm not a professional. I don't make knives, right? I've got limited experience when it comes to use, limited experience when it comes to sharpening, and some of this stuff is literally based on me liking the idea of the composition on paper, right? And based on reports that I've read. If you want detailed information breaking down the composition of any given steel, the best place to go is Knife Steel Nerds. Many of you guys know Laren Thomas is a godsend and an actual metallurgist. So that's where you want to go if you want that broken down. I've got these listed in order here. So I will be telling you, number 10 all the way through to number 1, and I'll be giving you guys my reasons. Some of these, I've got knives in these steels. And then for other ones, I'll have to just show you a picture. But in any case, I will link right down in the description knives that are actually made out of some of this stuff so that you guys can go check it out if you want to. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Honorable mentions, I'm going to throw in 3V. And then, of course, I've got some D2. 3V is an honorable mention. I can understand why D2 is an honorable mention. It's been around forever and it's kind of blah, right? 3V is an honorable mention. I don't have an enormous amount of experience with 3V. There are some other steels, truthfully guys, a lot of my favorite steels are non-stainless steels. I do have some knives on this list that are stainless, but a lot of the stuff that I really enjoy using out here in Kansas is non-stainless. I found that a lot of that stuff tends to be tougher and sometimes easier to sharpen. I really like those attributes. Stainless qualities, meh, whatever. Ease of sharpening, definitely a big bonus to me. Toughness, definitely a big bonus. And then edge retention is kind of okay. It's nice if it lasts longer, but not the most important thing to me, right? For what I'm going to use it for. 3V, I think it's fairly well rounded. There's just some other steels on this list that I like better. I like their overall properties better. And again, it's not necessarily based on extensive use. It's just a lot of it's my own, a little bit personal use, and then looking at the composition reports, things that I've seen online, right? So 3V, incredibly tough. Not stainless at all. Absolutely not. There are definitely steels I like more on this list that are less stainless, right? But I like the combination of the other factors there, right? What is it specifically about 3V that's keeping it lower on this list? Versus the other steels that I have kind of in the same territory, I don't like the overall balance of edge retention, toughness, ease of sharpening as much, but it's still an excellent steel. In fact, a lot of people right down in the comment section will say he's wrong. 3V is the greatest steel of all time. Everybody has their preferences, right? That's why this isn't a universal best steels of all time list. It's just my opinion. So 3V, D2, honorable mentions, absolutely. Moving on here to number 10. M390 / 20CV / CTS 204P, Bowler M390, Crucible CPM 20CV, and Carpenter CTS 204P are all basically the exact same composition. Oh, M390 just did 3 powder metallurgy. I bet you didn't know that. I do know that. Stop telling me. I know that. Listen. There's no way that anybody's going to be, if it's optimal heat treat, right, which tends to be 61, some people say 62, Rockwell, right, at least that's what I read. If it's exact same geometry, right, let's say we're looking at 3 different Spyderco Shammons. This one, River's Edge Cutlery Spyderco Shammon, which by the time you guys are watching this, I think that's coming soon. Say it's all 3 exactly the same, right, except the only difference is that they're One's 20 CV, one's 204P, and one's M390. Nobody's going to be able to tell the difference. Nobody. So they're basically, they're all analogs to each other, right? I do like this steel. This seems to be the steel of choice for a premium knife. I mean, I've got a great example of like how many knives are acceptable in this steel, right? The Shaman, this one's probably going to end up being $250, but it generally comes in as a $200 knife, right? The Demco 8020, standard, the cheapest version of this knife that's actually American made is $350 in Grivery, $425 for G10, or $625 for this titanium one here. Acceptable. Everyone's like, sure. This Shirogorov Quantum is $1,100. More people have an issue with just the fact that it is an $1,100 knife than the fact that it's using M390. M390 is just one of those beasts where people are like, okay, I accept it. That's a premium steel, right? Now, here within the next few months, perhaps the next year, we're going to start seeing the introduction of M398. Which is supposed to be, that is another bowler steel that's supposed to be M390 on steroids, right? That's how they always say it. More edge retention, right? Not going to be as tough, not going to be quite as stainless. That's what I understand, right? Great, okay. The balance of M390 and these other steels is it's pretty good. It's a little bit chippy, not quite as chippy at optimal heat treat in my experience as S110V, S90V, steels like that, right? So I'll take a reduction in edge retention versus steels like that, and an increase in toughness, and definitely increase in stainless properties. If you didn't know, M390 is more stainless than S110V, S90V. It's also more stainless than S30V, S35VN, S45VN, CTSXHP, right? It's got there's a good balance there, and I like that. I also honestly just kind of like it because it does have its talons in me in terms of like it's just a premium steel, right? That's just, it's got that in me. I've had, I've gotten good performance out of many knives made out of this stuff, right? Also had some M390 blades that didn't do too well. Generally, the more you pay, the better performance you're going to get. Moving on here, speaking of CTS XHP, I definitely like that steel. In fact, I like it a little bit more than M390. This is a cold steel code 4. Yeah, the old ones used to be in CTS XHP. Sadly, we don't see the steel nearly as much. I've had people call CTS XHP a stainless D2. D2 is not a stainless steel, right? But people call CTS XHP a stainless D2. I think kind of, yeah. It's got great edge retention. It's going to be better edge retention than steels like S30V, S35VN. I think, I'm not a professional, I think it's got better corrosion resistance than those steels, but not quite the same corrosion resistance as M390. But it is tougher than M390 and easier to sharpen. That's something I can appreciate. Throw a stone in any direction on the internet, right? If you're targeting information on CTS XHP, you are not likely to find negative information on this steel. I'm not sure why we don't see it as much. It is a powder steel. It's definitely a premium steel. I wish we saw more of it. Moving on here, a steel that I don't have a lot of experience with, but I love the idea of. This is LC200N, right? Brand new stuff, right? No, actually, that's Chronometer 30. Some older Shirogorovs and I think some other stuff. If I remember right, I think it was Shirogorov that was using Chronometer 30. This is basically, this cannot corrode or rust. And I know that people who are like scientifically better equipped, right, when it comes to exactly what it is that I'm saying there, they always correct me on like, well, actually, if it's impervious to corrosion, you know what I'm trying to say. LC200N is extremely stain resistant. This is the Spyderco Atlantic Salt. Atlantic Salt or Atlantic Salt 2? I can't remember what the heck this one. I'll link it down below. Great value for LC200N. If you work in an environment where it seems like every knife that you carry is getting blemishes and stains and it's getting patinaed, LC200N is just awesome. It's supposed, you're going to hear widely varying reports. Edge retention, anywhere from VG10 up to potentially approaching CPM S30V, which is, that's crazy, right? And really easy to sharpen. This is definitely, this is like the part of what made the Bowie chef so popular, right? This is a great blade steel for food prep, right? Considering the food tends to be acidic, and lots of different properties of food tend to, cause patinas or corrosion, surface corrosion on blades, right? makes an excellent blade steel. Again, this is a great example of how, you know, edge retention is not really the most important thing. When it's something like this is going to be super easy to sharpen, and it's basically just going to be carefree. Throw it in your pocket, use it, throw it around if it gets wet, whatever. Clean it off whenever you feel like, right? The blade's going to be fine. Unless you drop it in the ocean for 20 years, right? Then maybe it'll have an effect on it. This is one I just kind of more like the idea of. Again, I don't really have a lot of experience with it, but I hope we see more. I hope Spyderco continues to make knives out of LC200N, and then we see more stuff. Here's one that I do not have at all, and that's going to be VanX. VanX is absolutely in the same territory as LC200N when it comes to corrosion resistance. It's basically not going to corrode at all, but it has better edge retention. It's also going to be harder to sharpen, though. I kind of like that, right? Edge retention is similar to, I think, somewhere around the S30V, S35VN, CTS, XHP, LMAX territory, I think, right? You're going to get widely varying reports on that. Yeah, it's the same idea, though. So I think I'd take a little bit more edge retention. I think that's in a good ballpark of, those are steels that I really appreciate for their balance, right? Their edge retention and the other attributes. We do not see a lot of VanX, right? That's one of those steels where it's like, holy moly, that's VanX. Wow, that's primo stuff, right? Yeah, we don't see a lot of VanX. This is VanX Super Clean or VanX 37. There used to be a VanX 35. This is apparently an evolution to that, right? Again, not a professional. It's just the history I've read on that. It's also, well, the composition of VanX is very similar to the composition of the core steel in Damacore, which is a laminated, it's Damasteel. Well, it's basically a VanX composition core with a laminate jacket of Damasteel, which is a combination of, what is it? RWL 34 and PMC 27? Yeah, I got that right. I know I did. Wow, crazy stuff, right? So anyways, VanX definitely on there. Not a steel that I have a whole lot of experience with, but my goodness, do I love the idea of the balance there. And there are lots and lots and lots of positive reports with this steel for day-to-day use. Anyways, moving on here. I'm going to put all three of these together, and this is going to make some people upset. I should probably have at least one out here in this steel. Here we go. Let's use that. Yeah. S35VN. I'm also going to include S45VN and CPM SPY 27, which is proprietary Spyderco steel. If you look at the composition of each of these, right, a lot of people are going to go, no, S45VN is the best all-around balance. Maybe, but it's so marginal, right? It's my understanding that S45VN versus S35VN, the difference is so incremental, right? You're gaining a benefit in corrosion resistance from S35VN, S45VN. S45VN is going to have, I'm pointing around because I'm sure I've got pictures up here, right? S45VN is going to have better corrosion resistance, approaching the same corrosion resistance as M390 as far as I understand. Similar edge retention, but it should be it might be the same or a little bit better edge retention and the same or a little bit easier to sharpen. I think the idea was to make it a little bit easier to machine. SPY 27 is largely the same idea. These are all so close, but they're excellent. They're extremely well-rounded. It's a good balance of edge retention to toughness to corrosion resistance to ease of sharpening ratio, right? I love these steels. A lot of people ask why we see, like, everything is in S35VN. We're going to see S35VN pushed to a smaller price territory, and the knife world, right, the knife manufacturers, the makers, the designers are going to have us all convinced that S45VN is absolutely premium, and it only belongs on knives that cost above $250, right? This is what's going to happen, even though the vast majority of us aren't going to be able to notice the difference. They're all great. I like them all, right? If you absolutely need the most, if you want this balance, but you need the most corrosion resistance you can get, right, then S45VN, you might be able to make use of that composition. Maybe it is worth that $250+ price tag, right? Moving on here. This is absolutely a steel that I have an enormous amount of experience with and that I just absolutely love. And that is K390. Oh my gosh. So, not a stainless steel. Incredibly, I've got ink all over my hands. What is going on here? K390 is not a stainless steel. This is the Spyderco Ladybug, and I bought this specifically to test K390. I thought, if it's as good as people say, I'm going to buy this Ladybug for $60 and put it on my keys, right? And I'm just going to use it for whatever. You guys can tell, I don't clean this thing off. I'm sure you're wondering, like, is that rust? Nah, it's like adhesive. This up here, this is definitely adhesive, maybe a teeny tiny little bit. This up here is the patina, this darker area, right? I've had this thing on my keys for well over a year, and I have never sharpened it. Only recently does it seem to have actually gone dull, but I'll admit, I still use it to open packages and stuff. I mean, you can see the edge here. I don't know, it might not really need that much to bring it back to life. Now, it is still going to be hard to sharpen, but K390, the reason I like it, it trades out corrosion resistance for excess toughness over steels like S110V and S90V. I believe it has very similar edge retention to S110V, perhaps slightly better than S110V. I think it's probably going to be about, you know, in terms of like getting it back to a really sharp edge, it's probably going to be about the same as S110V, but you're not going to be having to deal with nearly as many chips, you know, in any environment. S110V and S90V will probably chip much more readily than K390. I like this stuff. I like it a lot, right? But there's still some steels that I like a little bit better. And these next few are kind of foggy for me. Right, last one, number one, is definitely my all-time favorite. But let's move on here to CPM Crewwear. And we'll put up the Benchmade Mini Adamas for CPM Crewwear. Yeah, CPM Crewwear will take apparently, now I'm not a professional sharpener, but this steel is very, very friendly to sharpen. It'll also take a hair-popping edge. You can get this down to a super fine edge, but it's extremely tough. I found that to be the case when I was using mine. And then I had another EDC a while back that was in Crewwear, and I was really impressed with it. It's not stainless, but it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal around here. Like I said, a lot of these steels that I've mentioned that are not stainless, they don't really have much of a... You're right, if you live in an area where it's a problem, then you're not going to like a lot of the steels that I mentioned, right? But that's why I included a few different ones on the list here, because they all have their place geographically and in terms of where you're going to be using it, right? Crewwear has an excellent, excellent, excellent balance. If you don't need corrosion resistance, I think this is one of the most balanced steels out there. It's still got a little tiny bit of corrosion resistance, right? But your balance between edge retention, toughness, ease of sharpening is so good. It's so good. I cannot stress that enough. This is one of the most balanced steels out there. And I think that a lot of people that are using this steel day to day are probably going to come to the same conclusion. Somebody like me, who's not a professional sharpener, I don't have a problem with this steel at all. I don't call it difficult. 30 minutes with this steel, right? Even if it's banged up, its teeth are all knocked out, it's not a problem. I love this steel. Very, very good. Moving on here, the next one on the list is going to be Maximets. Yeah, so I think Spyderco is pretty much the only company using this right now, right? Depending on when you're watching this video, right? Somebody might be like, no, so-and-so company uses it. Look at the date on the video, right? If it's the same day that I uploaded it, it's probably accurate. If it's 2 years in the future, yeah, then I'm probably not right? This has been my one of my most dedicated EDC knives. Like, this knife always ends up in my pocket. I'd say at least 2 to 3 times a week, considering how many knives I own. This knife, for a long time, it was the single most carried knife in my entire... I've got some... Sorry, there's some stuff on it from the last thing that I cut. I have been using this knife for about 1.5 years. And I can't tell you guys that I have been absolutely beating on it like a hammer. But if I need a knife to cut something, I don't shy away from use with this knife. As you guys can tell, it's still got junk all over it, right? Now, this seems to have held up better, curiously, than K390. And this has got a lot of adhesive on it, but you can see here, for whatever reason, the Maximet seems to have done better. I was under the impression that Maximet doesn't have the same stainless qualities, or I'm sorry, it is less corrosion resistant than K390, right? So I would have assumed that this would have been, it would have had more of a patina on it. It's got some spots and things here and there for sure, but it's not bad. The other amazing thing is, despite, K390 is amazing, right? And it held an edge for an incredible amount of time. Again, I'm a light user, guys, when it comes to using my knives. I have not had to sharpen this. In fact, I'll show you guys, it's still sharp. It's probably got it's probably got a couple of teeth knocked out. But this knife is absolutely, let's see if I can get it to bite. Yeah, it's still sharp. You can see where it caught there, right? There's a couple of spots in here probably. But I mean, I'm definitely still able to slice paper. Just some mild hangups. There we go. That was pretty clean. This has been around for a year and a half. I swear, I have not touched this up. Maximum is crazy. I should probably touch this up, but this knife is still plenty capable of being used for regular cutting tasks, right? Not stainless at all. Incredible edge retention. In fact, as far as I understand, it's only surpassed by some of the weird stuff, like that's not actually steel, like tungsten carbide, in terms of edge retention. I think it's surpassed in potential edge retention by S125V and Rex 121, but I'm going to prefer this because I've heard Maximum is easier to sharpen and it is definitely tougher, right? All that use in just a couple of spots in the edge where something's knocked out and you can't even see it, right? Touching this up really shouldn't be that bad. I mean, I consider myself an everyman. I use my pocket knives like the vast majority of people, or I assume the vast majority of people use them for regular stuff. It's amazing that this edge lasted. Right, if I use this for simple stuff anywhere from 5 to 10 times a week, that's about how much I use my knives. I'm not going out like, oh, I need to cleave this rock in half, right? That's not what I'm doing with my knives. I need to toss this anvil on my blade real quick. It's part of my everyday, people. Don't mind me just gonna throw an anvil at my knife. No, that's not my day, right? My day's cardboard and paper and maybe some rope or rubber here and there, right? Over a year and a half of that guy. That's crazy. Your mileage may vary. I love Maximum. Absolutely love it. And it is absolutely one of my favorite steels ever. Moving on here to number 2. More use with this steel might lead to me enjoying it more than my number 1. But as of right now, and I don't have a blade out here in this steel right now, 14C28N. I urge you guys to read Laren Thomas's article about the best budget knife steel. That's what got me curious. That's what got me to want to use it more, to want to sharpen it. Oh my gosh. In terms of balance, especially for this is a steel that you can find in the budget territory. And on my channel, that's anything less than 75 bucks, right? Kershaw uses it. This was a sleeper steel for a long time because people were saying like, nah, it's good. Like, this is a good steel. And people were like, it's been around, right? I've seen that, like, along with D2. I've seen it. Laren Thomas's article comes out, got a lot more people's attention, including mine. I had no idea how balanced it was. Between toughness, it's very tough, considering the potential edge retention, stainless properties, and ease of sharpening. The balance on this steel is godly. It's amazing to me that all of us, including me, went so long without being like, this is really good, right? And again, there's going to be people going, I've been saying that forever. I've always carried 14C28N, and it's just now popular because Laren Thomas went, fine, that's probably why, right? I'm not going to pretend for a second like I knew already, and then Laren Thomas said, and I was like, yeah, me too. No, I didn't know, right? I just thought, yeah, that's that steel that Kershaw likes a lot, right? Whatever, it's another fairly well-rounded steel. No, it's apparently really, really good. So, after using it, yeah, I get it. I mean, it's really, really friendly to sharpen. I just love that. That's something that makes me really happy. At the end of a day where if I'm going to go out and, do a bunch of work, or if I'm going to tear my roof off and, replace the shingles, and I know people are like, you should use hook blades for that. You should use, if I'm going to do something in that territory, something that's going to thrash any blade, so I don't care what it is, right? It's nice to be able to just touch the edge up. In an environment like that where it's going to be sweaty and there's going to be crap and debris and everything all over the blade, it's nice to have a good stainless steel. And it's also nice to have some reasonable edge retention. This is really a steel that can be thrown around and used. And the reason it's so high up on the list, but not quite number 1, is because you can get it on budget knives, right? It's accessible. I think it might be higher, depending, in the future I'll use it more and give my thoughts, but it might be higher if I had some more experience with it. If I had more experience than my number 1 steel. Let's go ahead and move on to the number 1 steel. I think a lot of people can guess what it is, right? Because it hasn't been brought up yet, and I brought this up on previous videos. My number 1 favorite steel of all time for EDC is still 154 CM / CPM 154 / RWL 34 / Damas steel. They're all going to perform about the same. Now, Damas steel is definitely going to be the most expensive. That is proprietary. That is not the same thing as Damascus, right? You're like, oh, Damascus. I've heard that's good. That makes sense. No, not Damascus. Damascus can be any 2 steels slammed together, right? Just how it can be anything. That's why when you go to, Amazon or other, like Wish, right? People are like, I'll use Wish because they have great deals. That's not they have great deals. They're selling you clones and garbage. That's why. Stop shopping on Wish. Anyways, when you see a knife that's made out of Damascus for like $10, it's because it's just mystery steel slammed together. Damasteel is proprietary. It's very specifically a combination of RWL34 and PMC27. RWL34 being very similar in composition to CPM154, which is the powder form version of 154CM. 154CM performs very similarly to all of the steels that I just mentioned because its grain structure is incredibly fine to begin with, right? So all of them are excellent. You're just going to pay more for Damasteel. This is my favorite steel. It is incredibly well-rounded. It's got good enough edge retention. It's so freaking easy to sharpen. It's just stupid. I love sharpening. Every time I sharpen 154 or any of the other steels mentioned, I just get excited because it's so responsive and it gets so sharp. Again, to somebody who's not a professional, my basic equipment on the KME will get this stuff so stupidly sharp. I love it. It doesn't take, even if the edge is chewed up, it takes 20 to 30 minutes. No problem. I love it. I don't have to sit there and grind away at it forever. Good stainless properties. Plenty tough for what I'm going to use it for. It's just such a great steel. On top of that, here's the nice thing. This Protec, this is a Protec SMG, and it's a numbered SMG made out of titanium, number 2 of 40. This is a $500 knife when it was available, right? 154CM/CPM 154 used to be in the premium territory. So we used to see that stuff on in fact, we still to this day, Protec still uses 154CM and CPM 154. I think they're going to transition to some other stuff here, but we still see it on $150, $200 knives. Sometimes custom makers will see it on really, really expensive knives. But 154CM has ventured into nearly the budget territory. I've definitely seen some knives around the $70 to $80 mark that are in 154CM. And I think it's going to be one of those, like, alongside 14C28N, here in the second half of 2021 and moving forward. Those two steels are going to be the two most preferred steels in the budget knife world, right? By the vast majority of people. There's always going to be some, you're always going to have some bills going, 440C, that's all I need. 440C still better than all of them. I ain't tried nothing else, but I sure love 440C. 440C is fine, but they're better. I'm just saying that I'm in my opinion, there's better balance out there for composition. I'm going to get so much hate for that. But, and again, I don't know everything, so I'm sure there are some situations where 440C might be better. I just think all the way around, right, steels like 154CM and 440C are definitely going to be the most preferred in that territory, but I will still pay money. I will still pay a lot more money for a really nice knife that is using CPM 154 or especially Damasteel as the blade. This, you're getting the performance of CPM 154 and you're getting the look of Damascus, right? Generally looks a little better because it's, unless you're talking about really, really, really premium Damascus or Damascus that's made out of really premium stuff, right? This is going to be generally more premium. I've got a whole video about the difference between Damascus, Damasteel, and Damacore if you want to hear my thoughts on that. Guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it. This was a rambly, stumbly, bumbly, crazy episode, but I'm definitely a steel snob. I'm just not a professional, so I have a lot to say, and I hope most of it's accurate, but Larry Thomas, Knife Steel Nerds, that's where you want to go to get the meat and potatoes of what I'm saying. So anyways, guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it. Like I said, there will be links right down in the description if you want to check out knives made out of the steels that I was talking about today. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.